of your time, I will begin the next session. So it's me who will be talking about data journalism, so I can't introduce myself. I'll just give you a link where you can find out more about me. And thank you again, sir. With your permission, I begin the next session, sir.
Thank you. So I take leave. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So students, we would want you to interact as we go along. Data journalism is Mr. Charidhar Vardhan, or is Mr. Muhyiddin still there? Would you want to come in here? Okay, so we generally have these data journalism lectures spread over 5 days. I've had these sessions with IMC students and other students over 5 days, and we have different kinds of data journalism courses. It can run over a semester as well. As Ms. Vardhan said right at the beginning, we're going to have a snapshot of what to see, what to look forward in these kind of things. So it's very, very important that we get your feedback. As you know, that as teachers, we are very used to listening to students. So if you can just open up your microphone at times, it will be very useful. So I begin the presentation now. Can you confirm whether you can see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. So have any one of you, do you have any idea about what data journalism is, or any idea? Right, so I'll carry on this way because probably this is easier. I know it has been a tough day for you, but please listen to me for the next 40-45 minutes, and I'm sure you'll have very, very important takeaways. Am I audible? Am I audible to everyone? Are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Kibriya,
Yes, sir.
Sangeeta, Anamika, Joyati, and everyone else. Yes, to using data.
Yes,
So,
sir.
right, Gaurav Prasad. So basically, journalism has two different dimensions. One of it is that it makes a very modest kind of a claim that the job of journalism is to report the news of the day quickly. Right? That is what we are doing. Report the news of the day quickly. The other thing that journalism assumes is that we have the right tools, or we have the right skills to find out what is reality. Right? That is the assumption we make, that we always know what is reality, and we have to make our readers or viewers believe that, okay, you know what is reality, or you know what are the true facts, if I can use that term. So at one end, journalism is very simple. It just has to know just has to report the news of the day very quickly. Secondly, it assumes that it has the tools to measure social reality, right? I'll just go back to a bit of journalism before I come to data journalism, and then I will talk about what kind of stories we can do and what are the pitfalls and so on and so forth. As I said, we'll quickly give you an overview of data journalism. I'll just quickly run over all these things. This is probably not required. This is what we will generally talk about in our other classes, about why storytelling is important, or one of the ways in which journalism makes people believe that we are speaking the truth is by using this structure that we call it news stories, or we construct it like stories. So there is the element where people believe these things. So we are biologically wired to listen to stories and to experience that and to co-experience those stories. That is why whatever is being given out, or whatever is coming out with as a media product, is regarded believable by people, because it has been doing things in a certain way, and one of the ways is that of storytelling. And I'm not going to talk a lot about storytelling here, because our focus is elsewhere. But this is one thing that you must remember, that when we hear stories, we believe them to be true. And that is because of a biological reason, because whenever we see a story, there are mirror neurons in our body which react exactly as the protagonist in the story feels. So if the hero feels sad, we also feel slightly sad, because we are a part of the story and we identify with that. And that is why we regard them as true. And that is why journalism is regarded as something very credible, because they use the story structure. Is this argument clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
okay.
Yes.
Please do let me know if the argument is not clear, because I will know what to say. So one of the ways in which the second point was taken care of by using this form of journalism, which is known as narrative journalism. We create those characters which people can identify with. So if I create a student character, you can identify with, and whatever the pains, the happiness, the joy and everything that the student character feels, you will feel, because you will identify with that. And that is why you regard them as true. That is why journalism adopted this literary fiction structure, right? We know about this narrative journalism forms, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So one problem with, and now we are coming to a very important point. One problem with narrative journalism is it might not be true, and this is a real event. Can you see the screen? Can you read the things written on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
so
Yes, sir.
there was this wonderful piece by Janet Cook in a newspaper called the Washington Post. That was in 1980. And it was so beautifully written. It was about a drug addict. And it was so beautifully written by Janet Cook that it ended up getting her the Pulitzer Prize. Because people could identify with the character, with the story, with the tools that the story had used. But what that meant was that people wanted to find out that what is happening to Jimmy now. Where is he? What is he doing? What is happening? It was soon found out that there was no Jimmy. The story was made up. Am I clear? বোঝা যাচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
So the story can be made up. And if this is the structure, journalism might lose its credibility at times. I'm not saying that everyone does that, but there is the possibility. So we'll soon see data journalism is a way of providing evidence. And it is not just providing evidence. We'll also see how data can provide us with stories. It can provide us with hundreds and thousands of stories, and we will see why it is important. So because the story structure does not provide enough evidence, we have to look for ways in which we can provide evidence. And that is where we started having this structure of what is known as precision journalism. And this started way back in 1973. And it started using the same research techniques that many of you will be using, whoever is going on to become researchers or whatever. These are the techniques that you might be using. So precision journalism treated journalism as if it were a science, adopting the scientific method, scientific objectivity, and scientific ideas to the process of mass communication. So the argument is like this. Journalism has not only to speak the truth, but it also has to make people understand that we are speaking the truth. And for that, it must do certain things, or it must be seen doing certain things which people regard as credible, because we deal in credibility. If people do not regard us as credible, we will lose our essence, or we will lose our existence will be at stake. That is why it's important for us to think about in terms of evidence-based journalism, right? You don't have to necessarily agree with all the arguments, but it's important that you recognize the argument that we are trying to put. Is that clear? Yes? Are you there or you're not there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Because we have to also make sure that you don't fall off asleep beside your mobile phone. That's why we have to.
No, no. It's okay, sir.
Okay. So this is what precision journalism wanted to do. Precision journalism wanted to find out how to find information. And not just finding information, how to evaluate and analyze that information. And more importantly, how to communicate that information in the way that it makes sense and people find that interesting. There are so many things that we see we do not find interesting, we do not read. Am I clear? I'll appreciate
Yes, sir.
if some of you who can, if you can even at times switch on your video so that we know and we see a three-dimensional student, will feel even better. So I invite you to speak and also to maybe make yourself visible at times. Now, this is something that we must realize, and this is slightly more than that even now. So how much data is there in the world right now? It's about almost 45 zettabytes or more, and that is about 45 trillion gigabytes. And 1 trillion in our language will be 1 lakh crore. So 45 lakh crore gigabytes of data in the world at present. And if I have to put that in simplistic terms, or if I have to put in terms of data journalism, I will say that there is so much data available on the planet that if we were to store them on DVDs and stack them on DVDs, they will either be, there will be 5 stacks from the Earth to the moon, or there will be enough stack of DVDs to circle Earth 55 times. So that is so much of data in the world. And much of it is presented in a structured format. I will explain what is structured and unstructured and so on and so forth. But important to realize that what is different from earlier times is that we have lots and lots of digital data. Any idea what does digital mean? Can anyone tell me what is the meaning of digital? You can even write down on the chat box if you feel like. Or you can just switch on your microphone and tell us what is digital.
Sir, visual representation.
Yes. What else? Thank you, Kuheli. Thank you very much for your answer. Anyone else? Yes. Shriporna, you wanted
Data given using electronic media.
Okay. Thank you, Shriporna. Vinya, you want to say something?
Sir, that means using of electronics media, which is visible, both audible and visible.
Okay, so basically what we mean by audiovisual is that what basically we mean by digital media is that all the information can be transcribed into zeros and ones. So that is digital information. So all the visual and the audio information you are suggesting, everything, it can be converted into zeros and ones, and that is why we can store all the things on our computer, on our hard disk, on our cloud, on our mobile, and all such things, right? So digital means we have a special format of storing information. So and you are correct in a way that even the visual and the audio information can be connected like that. Now earlier, just give me a moment, that's an important. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So now see this. there was a time, I'm sure you have seen a lot of old films and you have a lot of ideas about old journalists whose main job was to scout information. They would be at all those dingy dens or all those dangerous places just to scout for information. Wherever they could hunt or gather information, they would be very successful. That was the time when information was scarce. A successful journalist was one who knew where to get information. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And also, there was not abundance of, there were not abundance of network hubs at that time, I believe.
Absolutely, absolutely, very well said. That's what I'm coming at. Wonderful. So information was very less at that point of time. Our job was to just find out information. A good journalist we knew was somebody who could just call up the right people and get the right information. But now the information is abundant. We just saw that there is about how so many lakh crore GBs of data in the planet. Our job is to find out the relevant ones from there. Not just find out the relevant ones, but also to look for structures in that. So it's no longer news that is important, but the meaning of the news. শুধু খবর হলেই হবে না, খবরের মানেটা কি, what is the meaning, what is the significance of that news, what is the background, what is the context. All these things are very, very important. So our job is to find out how to get that information and to make sense and structure out of that information. And that is where data journalism comes in, and that is where our job becomes so very important. And we'll find out certain tools on how to do that, and I will also share certain things that we have created for you, certain data sets and certain other resources that we have created for students. I will share all the links with you as we go along. And I promise you that we will end before your 9:30 time. So I want all of you to be fully awake and fully involved as we go on in these classes, because probably we might not get a chance to talk about these in your regular classes. In the newer syllabuses, all these things are a part of their syllabus, as I just told you, but still it's important for us. Earlier, as we just know that, what was the evidence we provided? যদি কোনো একটা খবরের evidence provide করতে হয়, what would we do? We would just provide an anecdote, or we would just provide a quote that Mr. So and so or Mrs. So and so or Dr. So and so, Professor so and so এটা বলেছেন. So, am I clear about that? The only evidence in the story was what other people were saying that was happening, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir. And also, like eyewitnesses and something like the witnesses.
Yes. So it could be you could be present, and you could be giving your eyewitness account as well.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Wonderful. But data journalism allows us to go beyond the anecdote and provide evidence, as I said right at the beginning. So for example, we can compare how things were last year, whether it is going up, going down. We can talk about averages and so on and so forth. But as I'm just telling you, that if we get the right kind of data, because data can be fudged also, and the students do ask me this question very often, sir, what if we have the wrong data? So I'll tell you how to deal with wrong data as well. But important that this provides us with a situation where we can go beyond the anecdote, or we can go beyond these statements or eyewitness accounts, as you so rightly said. So the focus now shifts from being the fastest to report something to, as I just said, to what sense it makes, and to use an old cliche, to decipher the signal from the noise, because there is so much noise, there is so much of information to find out, to filter out the required information from there. That becomes very, very important. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. So generally, data journalism begins with these kind of things, and I just want you to have these three things very, very clear in your mind, because these are very simple things, and data is not something that requires any mathematics, or it does not require even a lot of computer skills. This is very simple numbers that we are dealing with. And as I said, we will also deal with important numbers like the National Family Health Survey data. So data request begins with a list of questions that you want to answer. So we have questions. So journalists want to answer certain questions. So we want data to answer those questions. For example, Professor Ray was talking about education. So we have questions about education in a particular district or whatever. Ultimately, it has to be about people. Ultimately, the storytelling part is very, very important because that is what people remember. People can remember whatever they can identify with. People remember emotions. That is why those emotions are a very, very important part of the storytelling structure. But this part is very important to bring us to those facts. So this is to back up those individual accounts that you might be giving. You need, for example, a story on education or a story on health. So you talk about a particular place or a particular district or a particular town or whatever, and then you also provide the larger picture. So we will give you examples about that. So data is about a list of questions that you want to answer. Often the data is not in a tabular format, and that is where data journalism has its biggest challenge, because everything is not in terms of tables. Everything is not in terms of what we know as structured data. So there are two kinds of data that we talk about. One is structured, where it is in form of clear tables, and you just know very simple Excel or Google Sheet or those kind of skills to get information from there. For example, I want to find out which state has the highest literacy or which state has the lowest literacy, or which are the states which are less than the national average. So for them, if I have these things in a tabular format, I will demonstrate that. But for paucity of time, I'm just kind of speeding up with some of these concepts. So data may not be in a structured format. We might have to bring it to a structured format, and that is where the challenge is at many places. So data can be the source of news stories, or it can be a tool of stories as well. For example, when this National Family Health Survey, how many of you have heard about the National Family Health Survey?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
We
sir.
have already had it, sir, previously.
You already?
I already had it.
Okay. So you know about National Family Health Survey. Anyone else? Who else has heard about the National Family Health Survey? NFHS. Only one person. There are so many other students in the group. Okay, so whenever these reports do come out, whenever these reports are released, that itself is the story. That this is the report which has come out, or Human Development Index, or any kind of a report. So we have those reports, and just like scorecards, they become the news story. In the earlier session, we were discussing GDP, gross domestic product figures. So every 3 months we have these figures, and there are a lot of debates on the GDP going up or going down. Do you come across those stories?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir.
So those are the stories where data is the source of news stories. There are places where we can also use data as a tool. So it is no longer just the data itself which is the source. We will also use it as a tool for news stories. So this is something that you must remember. But even before I talk about how to access data and how to do search and all those things, I will, as I said, give you an entire snapshot of what we do in data journalism. You must understand that at heart, this is journalism. This is the same kind of journalism. We use the same kind of toolkits. We do the same kind of questioning, and we have the same kind of standards by which we treat data. So it is journalism in that very important sense. And also, as journalists or communicators, we can draw important links And that is why it is our job, and it is not the job of a statistician, or it is not the job of a computer scientist to talk about data. It is our job because the context is important, the associations are important, and also, as I said, at times the background is important. So that is why this is just journalism of a different kind. Because before our generation, for example, people used to write news stories on a piece of paper, and somebody else would, compose it, or, typeset it, or whatever. Our generation started writing on a word processor, or we started making pages on a page maker, on Quark Express, or whatever. Now the present generation will have to deal with things like artificial intelligence, and will have to deal with things like modular journalism, and will have to deal with things like getting stories from data. So this is just another kind of tool set or skill set that is required. And at the heart, as I said, it's just any other form of journalism, right?
Yes, sir.
It makes sense, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so before I go on to the second part, there are three things that we need to do in data journalism. One is how to access information. Am I clear? Where do we get information from? And I'm sure that everyone, all of us, whenever we have to go for any kind of an information, we go to something which is known as Google search, right? I
Yes.
guess
Yes, sir.
everyone on the planet starts off with a Google search. But there are some very, very important things about the Google search that we might not know. For example, on this slide, I have just shown you how to, look for a particular file type, or how to look for a particular kind of a file, and so on and so forth. And I will also, introduce to you certain, data sets where you can get it. But important to know how to, use the power searching tips on Google. Thankfully, I have, created a small video on how to do a Google Power Search. I will just share the link with you on the chat box. You can see that later on. So just let me share that link with you, and I'll go back to the first part of data journalism, which is how to access data, or how to search, or how to do power search on Google, right? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
So I'll just share that with you in a moment's time, and just give me a moment. So can you please confirm on the chat box whether you have, and can you please, yeah, Shagar, digital is a computer-based binary system. Thank you very much. Yes. Can any one of you please confirm whether that link works? You don't have to see that right now, but you just have to confirm whether it works. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It works. It
Okay.
works.
Wonderful, wonderful. So later on, we'll need you'll need that how to. Generally in classes we try and demonstrate how to do that search, but I don't have time to. As I said, I want to talk about lots and lots of things. That's why I'm just skipping over some of those things. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. But this is one way. If we have to have certain kinds of Google files, I will do this kind of a thing. Or if I want some exact phrases, I put inverted commas. Or if I want definitions, I'll put that. Or if I want to find out about some books or whatever, I'll go to a particular site. If I want to find out about a particular date, particular time, there are all those options given there in the YouTube video that I've just shared. So I can now safely go to the second part of the thing is where do we get government data from? And this also I will share on a different website as I go along. I have created about 55 data sets where you can get data from. I will share that link with you as well. So these are some of the places. So what we are discussing now is how to get data. Kothay theke pabo data, right?
Yes, sir.
Am I
Yes, sir.
clear? Is it
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
wonderful?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes, sir.
Karan শুধু Google search e পাওয়া যাবে না. There are so many other places that we can get it from. So these are some of the places. Data.gov.in is where you can get lots and lots of sites. And I will, as I just said, I will share a link with you where you will get all these data at one place, data sets at one place. We created that sometime back. So this is government data. If you want to get this public data, there are these kind of data sets. So in the link that I'm going to give you, you will get all these things. So you don't even need to write it down. For example, the RBI database of Indian economy gives us lots and lots of information about the economy. Then we have this Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation data set. We have the Survey of India. We have Indian weather data and all these things. So these are some of the places where we get data from. We also can get data from these API-based faces. I'm not going to get into that. This is slightly advanced, so we can skip over this one. But again, this is a very, very important link, as I said, and we will give you all this link at one place on a website in just another 10 minutes. So the first part is where to get data from. So we must know how to use Google properly. And for that, I just shared 12 Google Power Search tips with you. Then there are all these wonderful websites or dataset portals where we get information. For example, there is something called Google Dataset Search. Can any one of you type it on your mobile or a laptop or whatever and see what Google Dataset Search gives you? Can any one of you do that? Is it possible for any one of you? No? Can you just type Google Dataset Search and see what it gives you? Not possible?
Yes, sir, I'm looking.
You're doing that? Snigdha.
So it shows search for data sets.
So you can search for wonderful data sets, Sagar. Thank you very much. So from there we can get lots and lots of data about education, about health, about crime, because these are the places where we get a lot of stories on where to make stories from. And as a student journalists, we can understand that how much empowered we are if we know the right skills, because I don't have to talk to people just in a vacuum. I know the facts, and then just I know I need certain supporting quotes or need to talk to people who would kind of represent those facts. So this gives me story ideas as well. If I can just look at certain figures, and I will also talk about what kind of story ideas. But the first part, as I said, of data journalism is how to access data. So do you have any questions on how to access data? Any questions? No questions?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Please
So,
do, yeah.
when we are searching something, there are different types of answers are there available. So, how we will identify which is authentic or which is not authentic?
Wonderful, wonderful. I'll come to that. So that is something I will come to. Thank you for the question. Who is it that asked the question? I didn't get your name.
Sir, my name is Snigdha.
Yeah, Snigdha. Yeah. Thank you, Snigdha. I'll come to. I'll have a detailed answer to that. Can you see this on the screen, the data sets?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I have
Yes, sir.
created that on my own website. It's called Resource for Journalists Data Sets. You just need to click onto those things. I will share the link with you in a moment's time. All these data sets are available. You just need to click and it goes to the actual data set. For example, the portion tracker is about nutrition, about nutrition things, about tuberculosis cases, about disease surveillance, about health information, about medical certification of death. We have crime data. We have this Pratham data. So there are, I mean, I can have an entire 2 or 3 classes on this. Indian election data set, this National Election Watch. I will add more to it in a couple of days' time. We also have the Bollywood movies database, that all the movies that were released from 1950 to 2019. It's they scrape the data. There's also this cricket statistics. There is that aging data set. So I have compiled this data set on a website, and this can very easily answer your question that where do we get data from. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I've shared that link with you. Please just confirm whether you can see that link, whether that link works.
Yes, sir. It is work.
Yes. So as I said, I've been doing these classes with students all over the country, and we use these data sets to see what are the kind of stories that we can do. প্রথম কাজ হচ্ছে কোথায় ডেটা পাবো, কি করে পাবো, how do we access data? So I hope that part is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Everyone else?
Yes.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
as I carry on, that is
Yes,
just
sir.
some information for you. In another 10 minutes, my colleague, Mr. Devan Bhaduri, will share the feedback link with you. Every day there will be a feedback link, and those students who have been present for all the 3 days, they will get a certificate of completion signed by the Unicef chief and the Press Club president and others in the organization. So that will be a very important document for you at the end of 3 days. It's for students who attend all the 3 days. Plus, you get all these important data sets, and you do ask questions as well. For example, tomorrow we'll have a session on an introduction to development journalism and another on fact checking. And on the last day, we have one by eminent journalist Monidira.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please. Go on. Yeah.
Sir, last time I have not get the certificate.
Last time was a faculty development program. This is a students workshop.
Okay. And thank you, sir.
So this is for people who will be present on 3 days, and they provide their. That was not a question. That was an observation. I also want questions. I'll give you time for observations also. Do you have?
Sir, good evening. This is Kuhili from Vishwavarati. I have a question. May I ask?
Please. I invite questions.
Sir, for reporting, the stories we create to bring into the ground reality along with authentication, and what's the basic difference between those stories and data stories? This is my question.
Okay, so data stories provide you with greater evidence. Data stories are probably more provide you with more options for creating those stories. So you will have to link it with the storytelling techniques. You will have to bring in personal elements also, but this is an extra tool from where you can get more stories. Many story ideas which we might not have had if we did not know that these data were there, and we knew that this is where we can get information from. So basically, this is another form of evidence, but for journalists, it is a very empowering tool because it gives us an idea where to get stories from or how to get stories. Am I clear?
Thank you so much, sir. It was very enriching.
Otherwise, you end up only listening to what people say. And there are many things about that.
Yes, sir. In a slide also there was like an I saw that blabbed overloaded information. It was written over there.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Right, right. So there are lots and lots of ways in which we can get data into spreadsheets. If I get an opportunity, and I'm sure that we will probably try it on some platform or the other to have a slightly more detailed discussion on data journalism, and that is where we can probably have a discussion on how to get. I'll just give me a minute. Let me share my.
Hello.
How to import data onto spreadsheets, for example. So this is these are some of the tools. I'll if I get an opportunity, I'll definitely talk about that at some point of time. So this is all about accessing data. The second part of my presentation is about how to analyze data. What are the kind of stories we can get from that? And I invite you to please just see the slide very, very carefully. So is the full screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first thing we can do here is something which is known as the full picture. So with the data, I can provide a full picture. So for example, in the poverty story that Professor Ray was talking about, we can see that there are 13% people below the poverty line or this or that or whatever. Or in COVID also, we can provide pictures about 160 crore vaccines or this or that kind of a thing. So this is one kind of a story we do with data. The second story that we do with data is about percentage or proportion. So this many percentage, that many proportion. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
So we make these percentages. আমরা এত percentage পিছিয়ে ছিলাম বা এটা national average এর এত percentage and so on and so forth, or this much proportion and so on and so forth. And as you can understand that these are very simple techniques on Microsoft Excel or Google Sheet. Then internal comparison, where we were last year, where we are now, where we were 10 years before, where we are now. So those comparisons are very good stories, and they are stories for every state, every district, every place, every organization, where we were, where we are now. So internal comparison. Last year we did this year we did that. And based on that, there will be stories about people who are affected by that. So to answer Koheli's question, we will also have, some people who are who represent this comparison. তাদের সাথে কথা বলতে হবে, because we have to get that emotional element also. Because if I just put in numbers, it's very, very important how we tell these stories. It is there in the background. It is helping me with understanding how the story or what the story is. But if I just have dull, boring, plain numbers, it will kind of even scare readers away. So we have to make that presentation very interesting, and that will be the third part of our conversation today. So the first is about how to access data. The second that I'm discussing with you is what kind of data, what kind of stories we can do there. So as I said, full picture is one, percentage proportion is one, internal comparison is one. Change with time. How have we changed with time? External comparison, compared to another state where we are, compared to other countries where we are, compared to other universities, what we are doing. I will share certain data. As I said, it is there on the website that I just shared with you. So there is a, let me just show it to you right now before I forget. So this again is another thing that I did for students.
Hello, sir.
Just a minute. Give me the Vimal.
I have one observation to share regarding this.
Please,
suppose
wait. I will invite you. Please, I'm in midst of saying something. Give me some time. Can you see that on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is what we will share with you. Can you see the things that these are all clickable links? There is a data journalism handbook, there is a data journalism curriculum, there is a mobile journalism manual, there is Our World in Data, elements of artificial intelligence, practical data science, data stories, so on and so forth. I have compiled all that for students, and I'm sharing that link with you. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And before you ask questions, please identify your, Tell your name and your institution and then ask the question. Yes, Bimal Prasad, please go ahead.
Yes. I am a journalist student from Utkal University of Culture.
Yes, yes, yes. Please, please. Yes.
I have one observation to share.
Yeah.
That is, suppose a 10 pages of executive summary of a development professional to be precised by a development journalist within 4 to 5 columns of news story in a newspaper and 3 minutes of package in a television channel. So this is precising a huge report like 10 pages of executive summary is very difficult for a journalist. And I think there should be one way out to precise all these things and to series of stories like that.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. What I'll do, what I'll recommend is I'll share another YouTube video that I created very recently. It's called Modular Journalism. So we have decided that every part of the story might have these 10 elements. The most important part of the element is why is it important? So if it is a 10-page story or it is a 200-page story or whatever it is, there are 10 questions that we ask. And one of the questions is why is it important for my readers? And if I get those answers, it is very easy for me to decide what kind of format. It can be a television format, it can be an audio format, it can be any other kind of a format. So that is where this modular journalism format will help you. Right? I'll share that YouTube link with you. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I'll do that. So for students, as I said, I have put that up in that particular link about what kind of stories. So I was discussing what kind of stories to do, and that's where these things are important. So as I was sharing with you, external comparison. This is the national average. Amra national average er theke bhalo na kharab. Am I clear? Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If I don't get a response, I think that my Wi-Fi is not working. So please respond. Okay.
Yes,
So one of the things is I make this comparison, and then we analyze by category and association and so on and so forth. What are the other data stories that we can do? I have compiled again this from this Data Journalism Highest. There's a book by Data Journalism Guru Paul Bradshaw, and this is what he talks about. And I got top of the tops, top of the flops. Anyway, সবথেকে ভালো story কি হয়? Who are the winners? একদম top 3 or 4, and who are the absolute losers? Top of the flops. Even in election stories, you will find out people who have done really well or people who have done really bad, right? So this is one data story that we can do.
Yes, sir.
The second is holding up a mirror, trying to give an entire picture, trying to show where we stand. So we just hold up a mirror. That is another kind of story that we can do. A freak occurrence, হঠাৎ কোথাও কিছু ভালো হচ্ছে বা খুব খারাপ হচ্ছে. A freak occurrence and an unusual change. So that again is another kind of a data set story. A claim debunked or supported. We have another session on fact checking in a day's time, and you can we'll have a lot of things there. Trend, and there are things like Google Trends also. So what is the trend? Is it growing? It is growing exponentially. It is falling. It is growing and falling or whatever. And that can be about health, about education, about crime, about many other things. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
এখন আমরা what we are discussing how to analyze কিভাবে story আমি data পেলাম আমি একটা tabular form এ পেলাম সেই table থেকে what are the kind of stories I can do. So these are the things that who are the victims, who are the losers, whether things are happening together, whether there is an association, and so on and so forth. These are the kind of stories that we can do. Am I clear about that? So this is the second part of data journalism. First is about how to access stories. The second part is how to analyze stories. And the third and the final part, which I'll try and cover up in 5 minutes, is about how to present those stories. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Why is that important? It's important because We want to attract readers into reading the stories. We don't want them to lose them by the way. We can't just kind of make them scared of numbers, because there are times when people get scared of numbers. For example, it also depends on the kind of medium that you're using. আমরা ক্লাসে অনেক সময় বলি রেডিও হ্যাজ পিকচার্স, রেডিও হ্যাজ পিকচার্স মানে কি?
Sir, in the back of, sorry to interrupt, first of all, in the back of our mind, maybe whenever we're listening to something, so in the back of our mind, we're also, I mean, if you're mindedly listening to that, we're already getting a clear picture of that walks in the, I mean, it is actually, I mean, CNS, via CNS, and reciprocity by the brain. I mean, if it works in that manner, I wanted to say that.
Anyone else? Yeah, so radio has pictures because it helps us visualize. Whenever we hear a song or when we hear somebody speak, we visualize that what is it that can be happening. So there, since your mind is working and trying to visualize that, we see that radio has pictures. Why do we call television as the idiot box? Any idea?
Because we
Television
listen,
idiot box bola hai?
because about television, we listen and we see whatever it is shown in the television. We are not imagining anything like radio, and I think that is why, because we're believing what the television is showing us.
So it bombards us with lot of sound and music and this and that, and we can hardly make sense of it. And in television, we do not have time
And
for.
also, sir, sorry for interrupting. I think regarding television, if it's we call that in that manner, as you have coined that term. So I believe that in that case, we are about to keep in that mind the fact of skepticism, because in case of radio, that is not there, because whenever we are listening to any sort of stories or horror stories or anything like that, we're also we're receiving that in that manner. But whatever the overloaded information and the blabbery we're getting humdrum, the regular humdrum via television, so we have to be very skeptical about it, I believe. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. In television, we can hardly think. It bombards us with a lot of visuals and a lot of graphics and a lot of music and a lot of those things. And that is why television is very simplistic. It can't deal with a lot of details. It has to be just a 2-minute story or something like that. It cannot be, we do not have time for too much details. So the medium decides. If I have to talk about statistics, I cannot use radio there, because I'll have to use in different terms. I have to use simpler terms, because if I talk in terms of crores or lakhs or millions or billions or those kind of things, if it is not there on the screen, it will not make any sense to you. So that is why we have these PowerPoint whenever we have to show you figures or whenever we have to talk about numbers. So radio is not a good medium for numbers. If I'm using numbers, I would rather use some kind of charts or data visualization of those kind of things. But if it is a television medium, it cannot be longish stories. It cannot have lots and lots of ideas discussed there. So our stories, our kind of storytelling also depends on the medium. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we can have lots and lots of ways of telling stories, but we must understand that the data can be used wrongly also. There are a lot of things to talk about how we present data, and there are hundreds of tools which are available. One of them I will share with you. I'll just share on the screen with you. Just give me a moment. It's called Data Wrapper. And all of us can try that as our students. You can This is the last thing that I'm discussing. I know that you've had a long day and I don't want to spend a lot of time with this is one link that I'll just share with you. Is there on the chat box? Please see whether it works. Can you see that? Is it there on your screen right now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If you open it on your mobile phone, you can see that if you hover on one of those states, you'll get additional information. For example, Uttar Pradesh, what the population was in 2011, what is it now, and what is the growth. So the highest growth, for example, is Uttar Pradesh. Ladakh, the population has in fact declined by minus 0.51% from 2011 to 2020. The 2011 figures are from census, 2020 figures are by UIDAI, which is the Aadhaar Authority, the Unique Identity Authority of India. So just by looking at this map, I can find out which are the areas where there have been higher growth, which are the areas where there have been lower growth, and so on and so forth. And I can also get additional information about all those kind of things. So this is one kind of data visualization. You can also download that data from that link that I gave you. And this was made using an application known as Data Wrapper. As journalists, we can know how this data wrapper or what this data wrapper is, and that is my final point for the day, because we will have to can you see the data wrapper site here?
Yes, sir.
So I created a lot of stories on the number of universities in each district, for example, and then how young is your MLA. So this I did was on what is the age of MLAs of all those constituencies, women reporters, and incidents of conflicts and foreign undergraduate students in India, and so on and so forth. So using this data wrapper kind of a thing, we can create a lot of these visualizations very, very easily. Because I'm sure you have come across a lot of those things. How many of you use Canva, for example? Canva কতজন use করো? No one?
Yes, sir. I
Not
used
sure
to.
many of us
Use.
Yeah. So of course, that is what I expect. So that is because your earlier generation, they were using software. For example, we were using kind of Photoshop and all those things, and it was very difficult. Now, just at a click, you can remove the background and this and that. So because of these artificial intelligence techniques, so many things have become very, very easy. So we must be aware of all these tools. So data journalism is all about accessing the right information and trying to find out whether the information is right or wrong. I wanted to do one on data biography also, but we have run out of time. It's exactly 9:30. I don't want to torture you more with lots and lots of information, but accessing information, analyzing information, presenting information. So that is what data journalism is all about, and it can be very, very, very empowering. Analysis requires certain Microsoft Excel tools. So one of the data sets in the list of data sets that I've given you is about for integrating database reporting on news stories. Does a journalist need to be good in statistics? No. You don't have to be good in statistics at all. It's just very simple Excel tricks. You just need to know what questions to ask, and then it becomes very, very easy. Plus, you don't even need a lot of computational skills. It's very simple, Google Sheet exercise or Microsoft Excel exercise. In fact, I would love to have some exercise with you at some point of time on Microsoft Excel at some platform or the other. One of the stories that I was talking about was about modular journalism. So let me just share that as well. And if you have any questions, please go ahead with your questions. Any questions?
Sir, yeah, I have a question. This is again Koheli Kaur. So,
Please,
sorry
yeah.
for asking a
No,
many times. The question is that, sir, is it somehow related to business journalism or anything sort of economics or
No,
economical?
as I said, most of the data stories are about health, about children, and about crime. So it's more about development journalism.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, that is a different kind of data analysis. Business analysis is different. Here we are trying to look for data which already exists because it has to be there in the structured format. There are certain requirements. So all of these things are there on these sites. And we must know which questions to ask, how to ask, and then to create stories, and then to create formats in which we can, put out those fabulous stories about people that people can identify with. Is that right, Koheli?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the
Okay.
clarification.
Thank you very much. So that is the YouTube channel where we upload all those things. You'll find out many on issues related to communication, research, and also on journalism. So you can have a look at that. Can you see whether that link works?
Yes, sir. It is.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
it works.
So thank you again for being such wonderful students. And as teachers,
Thank you, sir.
we think that we need to share these
Thank you,
things
sir.
with you all. And
Thank you so much, sir.
have you
Thank you, sir.
filled up the the feedback link that Mr. Devan Bhaduri shared some time back? Did you? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
No, sir.
No, I'll share the link once again with you so that you can fill up that because that's required. Oh yeah, Devan sir has shared that again. So make sure that you fill that up. And looking forward to tomorrow where Professor Dr. Mrinal Chatterjee will talk about development journalism in totality, and then we'll have Mr. Shambit Pal, who's a former reporter. He'll be talking about fact checking. So see you all tomorrow. Sushilita ma'am, you want to add something?
No, I have nothing else to add except that I was briefly away, but I could see that the students were engaging very intensively, and I think that is an indication that we are on the right track as far as planning the session is concerned. And I do hope that even from Professor Ray's session, interesting insights would have helped the students. So at any point of time beyond your feedback also, if there is anything that you would like to write to us, let us know. Do not hesitate, because it is for you that we will be planning in the coming days as well when we try to integrate this into your ongoing curriculum. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your support. So see you all students tomorrow, and let's make it very, very useful for you, and we'll keep on interacting at various platforms. So wishing you all the very best. Same time, same place.
Thank you, sir.